How to combine old school blues licks and rhythms, borrowed from Bessie Smith's 1927 recording, Backwater Blues. First, a demonstration of two 12-bar routines. Let's get started. 1, 2, 3, 4. When it rained by days and the sky felt dark as night. When the rain by days and the sky felt dark as night. Well, there's some trouble taking place in the lower lanes at night. Backwater Blues done call me, pack my things and go. Backwater Blues done call me, pack my things and go. 'Cause my house fell down and I can't live there no more. Let's break that down. Okay, a close look at the fretboard, getting started breaking down my interpretation of the riffs, licks, and rhythms played by the pianist on the original 1927 recording. Now real quick, before we jump in, I want to let you know that this tune is now in the public domain, meaning it's no longer under copyright. It's something that you can use for your own creative works. So we're in the key of A major, standard tuning. We're getting started with a very cool shuffle riff. This is going to be your intro section. A 1, 2, 3, 4, and alright, so we're doing this very cool hammer-on shuffle. Open A string, then we're hammering up 2 to 4 on the D string, and then back to the 2nd fret. We're going to repeat that 3 times across 2 measures. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and... Alright, next we're gonna play. Alright, so I'm grabbing an E dominant 7 chord shape. That's going to be 2nd fret A string and the 1st fret G string. You can also add your pinky to the 3rd fret B for an extra dominant 7. Alright, so we're going to take that chord, we're going to play the low E string with the open G and hammer up to that major 3rd, 1st fret of the G string. Alright, then an upstroke on the high E string, add your pinky to the 3rd fret B string, and then play a down upstroke. Alright, put that full intro together and we have. Alright, that'll get us into the first of our 2 12-bar routines, each borrowing some classic riffs and licks from the pianist. Let's divide this first one into 3 sections of 4 bars. Section 1 looks and sounds like this, starting in the key of A with that A shuffle. A 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1. That'll get us to the 4 chord D or D dominant 7. Okay, so we're starting off with that A shuffle, 2nd fret of the D string going up to the 4th fret. We're going to drone that with the open A string. A 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then go down to the floor 1 string, D5, 1 and 2 and up 2 strings, E5, and then go back to the A chord where we're going to play. Alright, so it has a very major feel to it, right? So I'm taking the A major chord, I'm going to grab the 5th fret of the high E string, so now I've got frets 0, 2, 2, 2, 5. I'm going to play the root note, maybe a little bit of the D string, and then play up, down, up. Now I'm going to repeat that 3 times. Each time this high note is going to go down 1 fret. So, then 4th fret, then 3rd fret, that's an A dominant 7 right there. Then finally we're going to play bass, grabbing the 2nd fret of the G string and high E string, double stop, down a half step, and then the open strings. All right, put that last riff together, we've got. And all of section 1 should sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. When it rained 5 days and the sky turned dark as night. Alright, that gets us to the 4-chord D or D7 and section 2 of the routine. Looks and sounds like this. It rained 5 days and the sky turned dark as night. Back to the A. Okay, so we just started off shuffling on the D5 chord shape, going back and forth between frets 2 and 4 of the G string, droning with the open D. Then I'm taking a D dominant 7 chord, bass up, down, up. Then, very cool, we're gonna take a diminished chord shape, kind of imitate what the pianist is doing with these passing chords. Alright, that's a great, very cool trick to throw in on the 4 chord. A D sharp diminished 7, going up a minor 3rd, to an F sharp diminished 7. Alright, so that's frets 1, 2, 1, 2, a zigzag shape, being dragged up a minor 3rd, before going back to the A5 shuffle, just like we did in the intro, swinging with the hammer on. Do it 3 times before playing. Bass up, down, up on an A major chord shape, barring with the index finger. Okay, you put that entire line together and it should sound like this. Starting from that D shuffle, and it rained 5 days, and the sky felt dark as night. Back to the shuffle. Bass up, down, up. Alright, that'll get us to the 3rd and final section of this 12-bar example, starting with the 5-chord E dominant 7. Oh, there's a trouble taking place in the lowlands at night. Alright, and then that'll get us into what we can use as the chorus of this tune. Okay, so I took an E dominant 7 chord, just strumming with 8th notes, swinging. 2, 3, 4, to the D dominant 7, 1 and 2, and back to the E7, 1 and 2, and then this classic, beautiful major lick. Looks and sounds like this over the A major chord, which we can visualize in its E-shaped position, just a partial of the chord. Alright, so the lick looks and sounds like this. And then we transition to an E major chord, signifying to the listener that the progression is about to start over again. Okay, so listen to the lick one more time. The first step to learning a new phrase is always just to get it into your ear. Alright, then the next step is always to break it up into digestible chunks. So part 1, part 2, alright, getting part 1 down, we're hitting the open A string. I'm picturing my A major chord, played here in the 5th fret position. I'm going to slide up to the major 3rd and 5th of the chord. That's 6th fret G, 5th fret B. Alright, so next 5 and 5 of the B and high E string, back to the G and B. Alright, so far you have. Alright, next I want you to reach for the 8th fret of the B string while holding the G string 6th fret. You're going to bend that note slightly before going back to the 6th fret G, 5th fret B. That's part 1 of the lick. Notice how I'm using hybrid picking, my pick and my middle finger, so that way I can double pluck these strings. Alright, next we're going to play. A transition to the E major chord. All right, so that was open A string, and then 5 and 5, B and high E string twice, getting us into the next measure. All right, back to 6 and 5 on the G and B, slight bend, then an upstroke with the pick, all right, on the B string and high E string. So, all right, from there we're just gonna play down, up on the E major chord. You put the entire lick together and we have something that's very cool, a little bit complicated, but super classic. All right, that'll get us into the next 12-bar routine, borrowing more concepts from the pianist, and something that will serve you very well as the chorus of the tune. Okay, before we move on, let's play through the entirety of routine number 1, borrowing a ton of cool major licks and riffs from the pianist in the original recording. Getting started with that swinging intro with the hammer-ons, just like the ink spots. A 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and A shuffle to the D, to the E, and A, descending, D5, dominant 7, diminish, shuffle, bass, up, down, up, E7, trouble going on in the lowlands at night. That's going to get us to routine number 2 and something you can use as the chorus of the song. I'm going to have a chord sheet and all the lyrics for you at patreon.com/swiftLessons, so that way you'll be able to bust this out at your next blues jam. Okay, taking a look at our second 12-bar example, borrowing more licks and phrases from the great James P. Johnson, the pianist on the original track. What a great way to add more authenticity to our playing. You know, everybody learns from Eric Clapton and B.B. King and SRV, but you know, when you dig back in time and also jump across instruments, that's when you really start finding those techniques that make your playing sound a little bit more unique and also way more authentic. Okay, so once again, we're going to divide this 12-bar routine up into 3 parts. Part number 1 is going to look and sound like this. A 1, 2, 3. Backwater Blues, done call me back, my things ain't go. Alright, then that'll get us to our next line of tablature and the 4-chord D dominant 7. Okay, so there we started off shuffling the exact same way we did in our previous routine. Shuffling on the A, a 1, 2, 3, 4, the D to the E. Then the open A string will get us into our lick, which we are kind of reprising or recycling from our previous routine. Okay, so a couple of details there. I'm using the palm mute technique, which is something I definitely want you to get down. Just putting your palm right up against the bridge. So that way the strings are muffled, okay, or muted slightly. All right, the other thing is that oftentimes as I'm switching between chords while I'm shuffling, I'll play some open strings like this. I don't do it every single time, but regardless, it's a nice technique to throw in, adds a little bit of grit to your playing. So when you're counting it, it'll be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and like I said, you don't have to do it before every single chord change. That might get a little bit old quick. All right, so once we've made it that far, we can jump into reprising our lick, but this time we're adjusting it so that way it's a transition lick to the 4-chord D dominant 7. So picturing once again that A major triad, I might also picture the blues scale with the addition of the major third. The lick once again sounds like this. Alright, so it's played verbatim the exact same way we played it before, all the way up to here. But now we're just going to play 7th fret of the D and B string, descending by half steps. that walks us down to the D dominant 7 chord, a fantastic way of transitioning from the 1 to the 4. Okay, put all that together and we have line number 1 of our tab. Backwater Blues, don't call me back, my things ain't gold. Backwater Blues. Alright, that's gonna get us to line 2 of this example. Backwater Blues, don't call me, pack my things and... Okay, so all of that was familiar just like we did in the previous example. But here we're gonna throw in a beautiful James P. Johnson lick, which when played on the guitar kind of reminds me of Django Reinhardt. Alright, then that'll get us to section 3 of this example. Okay, so one more time, get that lick into your ear. My ass fell down. Alright, and right there to the E7 chord. Okay, so once again, we're picturing the A major triad, but we also want to picture the A major scale in its E-shaped position. Alright, breaking this up into 2 parts. Part 1, or the first measure of it. Alright, so that was the open A string, implying the chord. 6-7 on the G, 4-5 on the B. Reaching our pinky out to the 9th fret high E string, down to 4, and then up to 7. Some very wide, interesting intervals. Alright, then the second measure of this lick. Alright, so that was 5th fret of the high E string, 6th fret G, and then 5th fret B. So, just outlining the chord. Next, we're going to bar the 2nd fret of the D, G, and B string and add our pinky to the 4th fret of the high E string. Strum down, go down to 2 by itself, and then descend. 5, 2, 1. Some very interesting chromaticism there, which is going to kind of guide us into the E chord or E dominant 7. Alright, put that together real slow and we have. Make sure you keep your pick alternating. One more time. Alright, that'll get us to our third and final section, keeping it pretty simple, starting off just strumming the chords. Because my ass fell down and I can't live there no. And then a turnaround to close up shop. Okay, so very, very simple. We had the E dominant 7 chord shape. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Though I invite you to play around with your pick a little bit, try to add in a little bit of cross picking. Alright, then the D dominant 7. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Then this classic turnaround, which fits into the composition very nicely. And resolves back to the 1 chord A or A dominant 7. Okay, so that was bass, bass, the open A string. We can slide up into this position if we like. 5, 5, 5, the D string and the high E string. Now, let that bottom note on the D string descend by half steps. Then when you get to the 2nd fret, alright, just 1 double pluck, then the bass note followed by a hammer-on onto the G string, 1st fret. Then the open high E string, add your pinky to the B string, 3rd fret, and play. Down, up, down, up. So. Alright, a retardando slowing down the BPM just a little bit. Okay, then a nice slow strum down that A dominant 7 chord to close up shop. Okay, put all that together and we have our second 12-bar example, borrowing tons of cool concepts from James P. Johnson. Should look and sound like this. A 1, 2, 3. Backwater Blues. Done call me, pack my things and go. Backwater Blues. Done call me, pack my things and go. My house fell down and I can't live there no more. Okay, very good everybody. You've just expanded your blues horizons and broadened your vocabulary of major blues guitar licks. Enjoy your practice.